Hey everyone, it's 10 Types and a brand new set. Well, it's not actually brand new because we talked about it before, but the full set has just been revealed, which is Supercharge Breaker, which is the Japanese set releasing on October 18th, which is like a week, I think under a week away at the time this video is releasing, and that's going to be really cool. But we do need to talk about a few cards before that were also revealed, which are actually pretty cool. These cards are releasing in Japan through promo like packs from gym tournaments. I don't know exactly how these work, but these will be coming out internationally at some point, though I don't know exactly when. They'll be some point, hopefully. It says probably won't release internationally for at least 6 months. I believe Garganackle EX is one of the cards like this, which we didn't get for over like a year, but it could be coming soon as well. Obviously, Boss's Orders as well as Jet Energy and Iron Bundle. These are cards that we already have, but the other ones are new cards, and they are pretty cool. I mean, not this Hippopotas. No, how do I say this? Hippopotas. It's nothing spectacular, but the evolution Hippowdon is really interesting. It has 160 HP on a stage 1, which is high. It's nothing absolutely absurd, but it certainly is on the higher end. It does unsurprisingly have a really high retreat cost to match that at 4, which doesn't really give you any benefits, but it does have that, which is awkward, but it is going to be an attacker here with the attack Great Sandstorm for Fighting Caros, which would be payable most likely through reversal energy. There are other ways to pay this, but reversal energy pays that completely if you are down on prizes. And it says it does 150 and also does 40 damage to each bench Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's, that has any damage counters on it. And unsurprisingly, you don't hit weakness or resistance on the bench. This is theoretically really strong. Let's just say it does 40 to each your opponent's bench Pokemon and none to any of your Pokemon, which is the ideal scenario. That's insane. And 150 to the active, which 150 to the active is very solid if you're adding extra damage on the bench as well. How do you get the damage on the bench? There are various ways. There are certainly attacks to damage all of your opponent's Pokemon, but they are not perfect and, of course, are going to be attacks. So they will be using up your attack turn 1 or before this. Before like you can get this Pokemon to play. If you go second, you could like turn 1 spin up, but if you go first, you want to be able to Hippowdon like immediately. Of course, then you're probably not down on prizes. There's some kind of weird stuff going on here. Speaking of getting down on prizes, you could use Dusclops or Dusknoir as well to do bench damage, but just to one Pokemon. There are different ways to spread the damage around, but one way that makes a lot of sense would be with Frostlass, which does damage your own Pokemon theoretically, but what would those Pokemon be? Hopefully none. It is not it damages Pokemon with abilities, which would be not Hippowdon and Frostlass. It doesn't damage your Frostlasses, so you could do that, and that could be a very strong combo there against decks that are vulnerable to Frostlass. If your opponent's deck isn't particularly vulnerable to Frostlass, though, and you can't ever get damage counters on, say you're against Dragapult EX, you can't really ever get damage on your opponent's main attacker. That's going to be a big issue, but you are hitting them with Great Sandstorm for 150, so you should be able to do some damage to them as well. This seems like a very solid Pokemon, nothing absolutely insane, but very strong with its damage output theoretically. Then we have Rakska EX, which is kind of interesting. First of all, upside down draw for one colorless, draw 3 from the bottom of your deck. This is obviously not super good if you just view it as draw 3 for one colorless on a stage 1 EX. With the stage 1 EX, you're looking for something more powerful. Another stage 1 EX attack would be Goldango EX, which does absurd amounts of damage for just 1 energy. So obviously this isn't that good, but it is like kind of funny and unique. So that's a thing. But you have Psychic as your attack, which I always complain about this attack name because like it's Psychic, which is also a type. But anyways, for Grass Colorless, you do 20 and 90 more damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active. This is a really high multiplier, definitely one-shotting Charizard EX, but doing big damage in general to Pokemon with a bunch of energies on, which definitely do exist. This isn't like super good because it's very awkward to pay, but the biggest upside of this card, in my opinion, is that there is the Rakska from what set is Rabsca from Temporal Forces. There we go, with Spherical Shield, which is the actually only form of, well, it's not the only form of bench barrier, but it's like the best form of bench barrier, I think, post rotation, protecting your bench Pokemon from damage and effects of attacks. This is really useful against Dragapult EX, and it's just a pretty solid card that is seeing some play. Oh, that's not that much play right now, but in like City Leagues, it's definitely a card seeing some play, though not a ton compared to Manaphy certainly, but that is a good card, and Rakska EX could be played with that, and I think that would be the reason which you would use it, though it is Grass Energy. It's not a Pokemon being stuck into every deck. Then we have TM Machine, which is kind of weird because TM stands for technical machine, so this is technical machine. This is just an initial translation, so maybe it won't be called that, but that's like a funny name. But it's an item that lets you search your deck for 3 tool cards with technical machine in their name, reveal them, put it into your hand, shuffle your deck. There are 5 technical machines in standard right now, though there will be 6. I believe there's one in this set. Yeah, it's in Supercharge Breaker, which is not the set that these cards are in. These are not in the set, but technical was no what technical machine. This is kind of interesting. Obviously, technical machines, if you don't know, they're attacks that are on tool cards, and you can't use more than one attack per turn. Certainly, you can't use more than a technical machine, even if you could use more than one attack. So you don't really get too much value off of getting extra technical machines. In terms of searching tools, it's kind of it's not free, but it's pretty easy with Arvin as a supporter. Arvin getting a tool is like the main point is getting an item, and then you can get the tool for Sealstone, which is very good. And then there's some other good tools, but then there are definitely turns where you're just kind of getting free tools. So it's not super useful. Those turns in which you are getting free tools are like in the mid to late game commonly, which case technical machines are often good in the early game. So there is room for TM machine within like early game where decks really do want technical machines. But this feels kind of niche because why don't you just play like another copy of the technical machine? Yes, you could hit it off of like Pokestop or something, but well, let's say or something. But those other things would be like Arvin is a big one, which searches for items, which obviously just gets the tool. So this seems pretty niche, kind of cool. There might be some use cases. There's like Maractus, I guess, which is actually like an interesting use case here. Yeah, this is in standard. No, this is not in standard. Never mind. So there are some cards like it. Electrode. Is that? Oh, I misspelled that. Electrode from 151 says discard any amount of tools from your Pokemon. So yeah, you could just attach all the tools, and that does 40 more damage for each card discarded in this way. You could do that. There are cards like this as well. Pachirisu, I think. I'm not very familiar with like tool-based decks. They're generally not particularly good, but you could use it there to get like a bunch of extra damage, and so that's good. The TMs will be discarded after your turn, but you'll just discard them with bang boom chain. What is this attack name? You'll discard it with that before they discard themselves from just being technical machines. So that's something where you do have solid value there, but it is niche as well. But then we have the full set Supercharge Breaker, which will be releasing internationally, I believe in November, as part of the set, the main part of the set, Surging Sparks. I have looked at a lot of these cards, but certainly not all these cards, and there are some interesting ones here. We got for one Grass on Executor, Explosion Hour, which is a 60 times multiplier. Flip a coin for each energy attached to each active Pokemon. It does 60 for each heads. This is kind of like and TMS Ogerpon EX's damage output. It's a little bit less on average, but theoretically can take big one-shots in a way that TMS Ogerpon EX can't because you have the variance to allow you to hit that really high damage. But of course, this isn't that good. And TMS Ogerpon EX is a basic, and it has more HP, and as I said, does more damage on average, but more importantly, accelerates energy to itself as well. This card doesn't really seem like a card that is particularly good. It is kind of funny, but we've seen funny cards like it, but they're generally on basics, so or they like do more. Maybe wait, no, the other one was in Blissey, which is I was thinking of, which is like a pretty old card by now. Yeah, that did have a higher multiplier. It is energy attached to you, but then there's Maractus, which was kind of similar as well. You could just put lots of energy and theoretically hit for lots of damage. It's kind of like Goldengo as well. I haven't played with Goldengo, which does. That's an 80 times multiplier, specifically metal energies. This does not need to be any specific type of energy. And of course, flips coins for energies attached to your opponent's active. It's pretty good against Charizard EX, though not obviously consistently great, but it is good. It has some use cases, but seems niche, though fun. Then we have Durant EX. This is really interesting. Might be the only EX we're taking a look at. I don't remember. First of all, the attack here, Revenge Crash, 120 base, 30 more for each prize your opponent's taking. Grass, Colorless. Very generic here. Nothing particularly strong. They're not completely terrible either. You also have 190 HP, which is definitely disappointing. Well, I mean, it's below average, right? So it's definitely something, if you're looking at your attacker, you'd rather have more. But there is less. There are Pokemon with less, but certainly on the lower end here. But you have your ability Sudden Scrape, which is, I believe, why you'd play this card. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you may use this ability to discard the top card of your opponent's deck. This is a mill card. We've, of course, seen Durant mill before. It's probably the most iconic mill Pokemon. Mill has just generally not been very good. Great Tusk might be the most iconic, certainly because it's played now, but again, that's not that good. It's just okay and sees play some, but isn't that meaningful. So this is interesting. Obviously, milling one is not a lot. It's very little. You could play 4 Durant EXs to mill 4, but then what, right? Because milling 4 is not enough because that's all of the milling you're doing because you can't just replay it. But you can with certain weird combos. So you can do Area Zero Underdepths and then somehow you like turn it off and turn it on, or like remove the stadium and like put it back in play. And you can discard your Durants and then recover them. That to me is the way that seems the best. I don't exactly know how you'd do that. The thing I've been thinking of, I don't know. There's like a weird Lunatone that like stops effects of stadium. So you could do some like weird. So Area Zero Underdepths expands your bench, and then you have Lunatone. What does this do? If you have Soul Rock and Plate, prevent all effects of any stadium done to your Pokemon at play. So you can get Lunatone and Soul Rock on your bench, and then you can go and play Area Zero Underdepths to. Well, you don't have both Lunatone and Soul Rock on your bench. You have Area Zero Underdepths in play to expand your bench to 8. You play down 3 Durant EXs, and then maybe you play down 2 Durant EXs. Yeah, I guess you play down 2 Durant EXs, and then you play down Lunatone, and this would fill up your bench. And now Lunatone says that Stadium turns off, so then you discard the 2 Durant EXs and the Lunatone. It could be a Solrock as well, it doesn't matter which one, but you need both in play. And then you discard those, and then your bench is big again, and then you can play 2 more Durant EXs and like another Lunatone, and you can just keep looping that. But then you need to recover all these Pokemon, so you can play like Merriam to recover a bunch of Pokemon. This seems really complicated and really bad, but it seems funny. So Durant EX is definitely a card that's caught my eye, and Lunatone with Area Zero Underdepths is a really unique combo that also seems pretty bad, but seems funny. Maybe I'll play like Hawlucha with Lunatone Solrock. That could be funny. That seems pretty bad, but funny. So anyways, you got that going on. And this is a really interesting card. Tell me down below. This is one of the cards I'm most excited for of these new reveals. And honestly, from the set, it's a really unique design that on face value looks kind of weak, but there is some like area, no pun intended, there to be explored. So definitely a fun looking card to me. This is Vivillon. This is not like a brand new card revealed. I've talked about this before, but it allows you to evolve. It's like Team Evolution, but for all your Pokemon. And there is a Speakoon Scatterbug that can allow you to evolve turn 1, but you cannot rare Candy into Vivillon turn 1. That's just not a thing that you're allowed to do. Then we have what's new? Paldean Tauros. There's 3 Paldean Tauroses. They have the theme, which we sometimes see on like some different cards. It's always a forgettable theme because it's a theme where there's 3 cards and like most of them are completely terrible. But Paldean Tauros, there's 3 types, and this is the fire one, and it says it affects stage 1, the one affects stage 2s, and the one affects basics. And this one says it does 180 to your opponent's active stage 1 for fire colorless. This is okay, nothing particularly spectacular. We'll be one-shotting Goldengo EX, stage 1 EXs, or stage 1 Pokemon in general. I feel like aren't very good. Let me take a quick look at the decks that are played and see if there are any good stage 1s. Keep in mind, I think some people aren't aware of this, and this doesn't matter that long, but Pokemon V-Star as well as V-Maxes are not stage 1 Pokemon. They are very similar to stage 1 Pokemon, but they are not stage 1 Pokemon, so you would not be doing extra damage. Their stage is V-Max or V-Star. So like Lugia V-Star, you ain't hitting extra damage into that one, unfortunately, or Palkia or Regidrago. But you would be one-shotting Noctowl, but that's not like that impressive. I think the best one you're one-shotting is going to be Goldengo EX with weakness, but generally stage 1 Pokemon just aren't particularly good right now. V-Stars are, but they're not stage 1s. We also have Victini. This is a really interesting Pokemon, I guess. I feel like it's kind of interesting. And it says its ability Victory Cheer, attacks used by your evolution fire Pokemon do 10 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. What is the use cases of this? I don't know. There's like a very mediocre evolution fire Pokemon that we'll take a look at. There are a few actually. Fire Pokemon, again, aren't super great right now, but there is Ceruledge EX, which is a fire stage 1, and it's okay. And doing extra damage is generally good. It's a Pokemon that does extra damage throughout the course of the game. It's like a modular damage output, so extra damage through Victini could be useful. This is Buddy Buddy Pop and searchable, which could have value. So Victini is an interesting Pokemon, nothing super spectacular, but could have value. We do have Volcarona. This is very generic, can do 150 for 3, which is not that much. You could boost this with the Victini. 150 for 3 is not like terrible, but it's not really good enough either here for what you're looking to do. Then we do have Scorch, which does 130 for 1, and then just 30 to each your own bench Pokemon. 130 for 1's okay. Obviously, self-damage generally is not good, but your damage output here is okay. The self-damage actually probably is a good thing. You could pair this with like Dodrio, and you could do like Scorch Dodrio. There's also Steelix. I don't remember exactly what Steelix is. This does 130. Oh, this is like the same thing. This is actually the same attack as Steelix and Scorch. So, yeah, Steelix is very mediocre, not completely useless or unplayable, but is very mediocre. Does a good chunk of bench damage, which can become overwhelming if you keep using Earthquake. You could like knock out all your Dodrios, but it is theoretically cool with Dodrio and has really high HP. Scorch does not have 180 HP. 180 HP is really good. Obviously, the self damage will be lowering that, but Scorch certainly will not be a tanky Pokemon at all here. Then we do have, no, we took a look at Ceruledge and Armarouge, and then we have, we took a look at Sylvan. Okay, we got the next Paldean Tauros, the water one, which does, um, for 2 colorless, you do 30, and you may put up 2 energies attached to your opponent's active stage 2 into their hand. This is theoretically good against Dragapult EX. Double Turbo Energy will be rotating, but not like immediately. Not like as soon as this card comes out, but in a few months. So you could do double turbo here to really punish Dragapult EX. How good is that? It reminds me somewhat of the Galarian Stunfisk, which is playable but not particularly strong. If your opponent has a stadium in play, you discard it and discard 2 energies from your opponent's active, and you discard the stadium as well and do a little bit of damage. But the big difference is that you're discarding the damage with, or the energy with that. Here you're returning it to their hand. How much value does this have? It's okay against stage 2 decks, but it's not that good against Charizard EX. Actually, I don't know. Like Charizard EX accelerates energy, but it's on play, so there'll definitely be times when this is annoying to them. And in terms of other stage 2s, they're mostly support, so this doesn't have too much value against those. I don't think. The big 2 are definitely Dragapult EX and Charizard EX, and this is okay against them. You will be playing it with double turbo. There's not really another way to pay this that we have right now. Though I would not be shocked if we get counter energy back. That is an interesting card that could return it definitely. But Paldean Tauros right now it seems okay, niche, but could be a playable control card. Then we have Whalevent. This card I have not talked about yet. It has been like out. It was revealed just before this, but I will talk about it now because I haven't talked about it before. And it says, well, you can do 170 for 2 and 50 to yourself. That's not completely terrible, but nothing particularly strong either. But we do have Whalevent here. Frozen Fangs. It does 60 for 1 water during your opponent's next turn. Pokemon with 2 or fewer energy cannot attack. This is interesting. I actually do like the design of this card a lot, as this will be hindering decks, but not like completely shutting them down. Outside of Conkeldurr, which it will be completely shutting down. So that would be very unfortunate if you're playing Conkeldurr and you're up against Whalevent. You will lose the game because you won't be able to attack ever. But Whalevent here says you are able to shut down, like a Charizard EX is going to have 2 energy on it most of the time, but then they can just attach another one and then attack. But it is a pain for them to have to do. And then if you look at other top decks, you can see that like Raging Bolt EX will have issues, but can get an extra energy on, especially because you're not doing very much damage. You're just doing 60 here, so you're not applying that much pressure. You're giving your opponent turns to work with, and they will just be able to attach extra energies. Same thing with Terapagos. So Terapagos repeatedly having to attach extra energies is definitely not going to be great for that deck. Dragapult, same idea. Reggie Draco V-Star will be one of those decks with extra energy. Same thing with Gardevoir. Lugia, probably, yeah, Lugia will as well. Iron Thorns is the 8th most played deck. What? Okay. Yeah, Iron Thorns. I mean, that will be beating you up as well. I mean, well, will it? I don't know. But Snorlax. Okay, these decks are getting weird. Like I feel like the meta is like these top 7. Like I don't know. I feel like Iron Thorns isn't like a meta deck. I don't know if people would consider it's not like a rogue deck. I'm certainly not saying that, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just blocking it out of my mind. But anyways, a lot of these top decks will struggle some, but can definitely get over that. Like it's not a massive deal to them. It's not completely game ruining. But I suppose if you do this repeatedly and then also are able to take knockouts in between, it is really rough for them. But I don't think you'll be able to do that consistently with a stage two as well as like some other stuff. So Whalen, it's an okay card, and I do like its design. I think it's not like too annoying to play against. It is a little annoying, but not that bad, because it's not applying that much pressure and is something that you can overcome. Then we have what have I talked about here? I've talked about these cards. I've not talked about this Rotom. This Rotom is really interesting. First of all, for one lightning, you can do 20 for each energy attached to your opponent's active, which is okay, but nothing spectacular. But you have Crash Pulse, again, also for one lightning, which I've talked about this design idea before, in things similar to it. And I really like the design where you have two attacks that are the same cost that do different things, adding to Pokemon's depth. And if you're playing this, you might use Energy Sword, but Crash Pulse will be the main use, which says Crash Pulse, what? Okay, I think there's a typo here. But your opponent reveals their hand, discard any item and tool cards you find there. Discarding tool cards isn't that meaningful. It is useful for Force Seal Stone, which is like a powerful tool card, and there are some other good tool cards, but it's not that big of a deal. But the items is a big deal. Of course, there are lots of other ways to discard. Well, there's Area, which discards item, or which discards items. There we go. And so these are like kind of overlap. If this discarded supporters, if you could Airy and then do this, then, well, you can, but it doesn't do anything extra. Airy would not do anything realistically and practically in that case that Crash Pulse wouldn't already cover. But if you're able to Airy, like get rid of supporters and also get rid of items, that's huge. But with Arvin, you have supporters that are just kind of like items, and and even if like they have a research or Iono in their hand, that's still going to get them out of the hand. So you're looking at a Crash Pulse as like a solid disruptive attack, and it is good, but it's not absolutely insane here. But it is good. I think this is a solid card that you can put into control decks. Keep in mind it is lightning type. Lightning is like not really played in control at all. Luxray EX is sometimes played, but usually it's played with double turbo energy and probably new upper energy as well. No lightning energies in there, and lightning energy would not really be the level of explosiveness you're looking for within that deck. There's a lot of stuff to talk about with Luxray EX, but Rotom V does not have like really that much synergy with Luxray EX here, or that many other cards, but it is a card you could definitely slot in, play a Luminous, play a Lightning, whatever, and can attack with it. We do have Zip Strikeout, which is so like what is this? Pokemon, this is really boring. We do have Stunfisk, which says 50 on a coin flip. You do paralysis and discard an energy. Obviously, that's like kind of good, but it is on a coin flip, so nothing super spectacular there. We do have Kilowattrel, which can do 160 for 3 and move energy from this Pokemon to your bench Pokemon in any way you like. Not completely terrible, but not particularly good either. Then we have, what else is new? We got Dedenne, I believe, which is new, which has the attack Electromagnetic Sonar, which is the same as a Regieleki. Is this actually the same name? I couldn't find a Regieleki in Japanese, specifically within Limitless. I don't think they have it in Japanese. Looks like they don't. But regardless, this attack on Regieleki is really good, and arguably it's better to have 70 HP than 130. Again, I'm interested in hearing in the comments whether you think 130 or 70 HP is better. 70 HP is Buddy Buddy Pop and searchable, but obviously it's a lot less HP than Regielecki's 130, which is nice for surviving hits, which definitely will come into play and can be a really crucial part of the card. Regardless, Electromagnetic Sonar recovers a trainer from your discard to your hand for only one colorless energy, which is really good. This is an attack that is solid in control. Regieleki is often a card I just don't use in control decks, but it is a card that has value and can be strong. It can be played in these other decks, which are like, I describe them as pseudo control. This isn't really pseudo control at all. It does have obviously disruption with Iono, and then also plays an unfair stamp here. You have the Regieleki, but it's not really control-y. But Charizard DX decks can like start to wander into control territories at times, and so Regieleki is a card that is like kind of a staple to that. And being Buddy Buddy Pop and searchable is really nice. Control has like a mixture of cards that are and aren't Buddy Buddy Pop and searchable, but a lot aren't. But it's still a good card for specifically you're playing Pidgeot EX. That's generally the backbone of control in the current standard format, and Buddy Buddy Poppin's good for getting out your Pidgey, and potentially 2 Pidgeys or Cleffa, or I'll just open up this list here. This list, it gets out, it plays a Charmander, it plays Manaphy. There are different things, and Buddy Buddy Poffin is a good card. I'm going to open up another Pidgeot control list. I'm going to just look at a bunch of Pidgeot control lists. So, oh, you got like Mimikyu. Yeah, I don't know why I forgot about that. Obviously, a Pidgeot, and you have Duskull, Sandshrew. Sandshrew's definitely played some. This is just a big mess of cards. I guess the Slowpoke's pretty powerful and searchable as well. Um, Girafarig is not. So like you have these, and then obviously your EXs aren't. So a lot of weird stuff going on here. But Buddy Puffin is a card that it is really good to make use of. A lot of the best decks in the game are good because of Buddy Puffin, or at least get a lot of value from that card. So being Buddy Puffin searchable is nice. In addition to just having obviously a good attack there. And Didi, I don't know if I really talked about it on play. You can heal 30, and it says heal a status condition. That's not used, right? That term isn't used. If I'm not mistaken, maybe it is, and I'm just like being silly. No, yes, it's not used. So the special condition, right? It's a video game versus TCG term. I believe I don't play the video game, but yeah. So it heals special condition from your active and 30. This is like usable and could be useful in certain scenarios. I forgot to heal the special condition, but yeah, it heals 30. This is usable, but nothing super spectacular. You could do those weird loops with Miriam and stuff and Area Zero Underdepths, but that seems bad. We do have Primeape, Mankey, and Annihilate. This is interesting. You could do 130 for one fighting and confuse it, and you also confuse yourself. 130 for one fighting is pretty solid here. The confusion, like the self-confusion, obviously not good. I talked about Annihilate and Annihilate EX in a previous video like a week ago or a few days ago, and those are both interesting cards, Annihilate EX and the single price Annihilate, and a good package, though they're like one energy on stage 2 fighting, though it can be more. They have more, they have 2 energy attacks as well, and this has a 2 energy attack fighting colorless. Destiny Fight, both active Pokemon are knocked out. This is really interesting. Instant knockouts are good, self knockouts are obviously bad. So this could be really useful for knocking out one of your opponent's threats. Notably, Dragapult EX is kind of what I'm looking at. You do have 140 HP, which is above 130, which 130 would be getting knocked out by Dusknoir. So that is nice, though not like super massive. If you're just knocking yourself out as soon as you play it, it doesn't really matter. But it's definitely an interesting attack. In terms of prize trade, it's very mediocre to underwhelming because giving up a prize to take prizes isn't ideal. Dusknoir is certainly a good card in the metagame, but um, it's giving up prizes not through your attack, it's giving it up through an ability which allows you to do certain things with the game to accelerate it in your favor and just like push advantages and take extra prizes in that manner, as well as set up certain combos involving Briere, Counter Catcher, Iono, various things like that to get greater value out of those cards that you wouldn't normally be able to find. This is not something you'll be doing with an attack. It's something, well, you could theoretically get value out of it with an attack, but much less so compared to an ability, which allows you to do some really crazy things. So just keep that in mind if some of you are thinking, oh, this card is like Dusknoir or Dusclops, super broken, or at least super good. It is, obviously taking instant knockouts is good, but is how good is this card? I don't exactly know. Both attacks are very usable. 130 is nothing super insane, but it's not bad. And then, of course, being able to just go ahead and one-shot Pokemon that are weak to you. Generally, not all of them, but most of them. Trapco CX is a big one that I'd be looking at there, which you do one-shot if they have. Actually, no, you don't really one-shot them if they have damage reduction or HP buffs, but assuming they don't have that, you are one-shotting them, so that is like kind of nice. You're looking at stuff like Rotom V, and I'm sure there are some others as well that I'm not thinking of. Iron Thorns, Snorlax, Iron Thorns EX, Snorlax, Iron EX, things like that. You are going to be able to one-shot, which is quite nice. Then we have the Paldean Tauros, the last one, the fighting one. It says 90 for fighting colorless. If the defending Pokemon is a basic, it can't attack during your opponent's next turn. Of course, this is an effective attack, so they can switch out and switch back in to be able to attack. This is, of course, probably not very good. It's noticeably more accurate to pay than something like Annihilate here, which can use a reverse Lungi. This cannot, so I don't really know how you'd be paying this. I don't know exactly the use cases of this, but I don't know how much basic walling there. Oh no, yeah, there's Noivern EX, which is the big basic wall right now, and it is a very good card. Not super insane, but it is good, but much better than Paldean Tauros generally. Forcing a double gust as opposed to a double switch. Double switches are something you can definitely do with items. Double gusts are definitely achievable in the game as well, but not something that you can really do all that often. You can definitely do it with Iron Bundle plus Boss Soldiers, though it's not super hard to do either. But Then we also, you could only have one Pokemon in play for Northern EX, but that wouldn't help you with Paldean Tauros. We have Donphan next up. It can do 40 for 1 and hit through effects, which is so lovely. I think there's some other like basic that does like 10 and oh yeah, this Glimmet does 10 and hits through effects, which is like oh no, isn't affected by resistance, which is kind of silly. But 40 hit through effects, obviously nothing particularly good. But then you can do 120 for 3 and discard 2 from this Pokemon, 2 energy, and during your opponent's next turn, it takes 100 less damage from attacks, and you have 150 HP. That's a really solid tankiness. You can add to tankiness, add to this Pokemon's tankiness with a few different cards. So just looking at 250, that's like a lot of HP. Not surviving everything, but it's a single prizer as well. This is definitely an interesting card. Its damage output is really low, and discarding the energy isn't something you can do consistently, except if you have double turbo. But if you're using reversal energy, then that's all your energy. You need to reattach reversal. If you're ever taking knockouts and you're not getting knocked out, you can't use reversal. So lots of downsides with this card, but it's not a completely terrible card. It's okay. Theoretically strong. There aren't really particularly good Donphans in standard. Oh, I was like, why is this card like here? And it's the celebration print. So yeah, like these Donphans aren't completely terrible, but they're not particularly good either. This Donphan I feel like fits into that category of like mediocre, almost playable, but not looking super good here either. With the discarding plus the like mediocre damage and decent but not absolutely insane tankiness. Then we have Glamora. This is really interesting. Not 60 for 2. That's not very interesting. But Corrosive Shards, which does 20 for 1 colorless. Your opponent's active is now poisoned, and during your opponent's next turn, they cannot attach any energy from their hand to the defending Pokemon. This is interesting. We've seen attacks kind of like this. There was an attack or a few attacks that say if your opponent's active, if they have attached an energy, then they're asleep, which is a very similar effect, essentially the same. And this is interesting. They can evolve out of it because it's an effective attack. Yeah, but you are doing like some pressure with poison and damage, and you can boost the poison. It's an interesting little attack here. There are some pretty cool Glamoras that are not absolutely insane, but have solid value. So definitely some interesting things to consider here, though nothing that's super inspiring either. But could be an annoying card. But again, there's some switching. There's a lot of retreating. Most decks can retreat in the game, so they'll retreat and that's it, right? They'll just retreat and attack and knock you out. So there are times they can't always do that, but there are a lot of times when they can as well. Then we have Grafaiai. This is really weird. This attack, Mischievous Paint, says attach up to 3 energy cards from your opponent's discard pile to your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like. That's not very good, right? That's obviously not a good attack generally, but you do have this other attack, Energy Graffiti, for 2 darkness on a stage 1. You could use Dark Patch then, and the basics also darkness. And it says it does 40 damage for each energy attached to all your opponent's Pokemon. This is very strange. If you take a knockout on your opponent's active with loss of energy on it, then all of a sudden you're like barely doing any damage after that. Mischievous Paint's energy acceleration to your opponent's Pokemon will be meaning you're doing 120 more, but you're also accelerating energy to your opponent's Pokemon. It's probably not helping them that much. You can just like check them on their barrel or whatever, but it's not like that good, right? It's an attack that's not doing anything right away. It's just a setup attack, a damage setup attack. Even if you say you do 120 more damage for the rest of the game with your Grafaiai, how good is that? That's only okay, and your opponent can also kind of play around this. I feel like this card isn't doing very much damage. You can pair it with, I believe, the Orbital from Lost Origin. I was like, what set did this come out in? Because I kind of forgot about this card. It lets you, I mean, its ability is essentially the same thing as Mischievous Paint here. But it's on play stage 2 ability. So kind of awkward there, and just very awkward there using Orbital plus Grafaiai, but definitely a combo that's kind of interesting. Obviously can be hitting a solid damage output. You like play 2 Orbitals, that's a lot. That's just 240 damage plus some more, because they probably actually have energy in play. They won't have like 6 energy in the discard that often, but they might. Some decks will. Oh, I messed that one up. There we go. No, there we go. I'm back. Let's go. So yeah, Orbital here isn't interesting. Or no, an Orbital is interesting. Grafaiai is also interesting. Probably bad. You could use Mischievous Paint for control as well, but I would not recommend that. That seems kind of terrible. Then we got ourselves Bronzong, very generic, very bad. Then we also have ourselves Zangoose. This is really weird. I like read this and I was like kind of confused reading it. It's just one of those generic coin flip attacks. On triple coin flip, you can do 90 for one, which is like okay, it's certainly good, but not absolutely insane. And obviously, you're not always doing 90 for one. You need a triple coin flip, and the double if you get 2 out of 3 heads, that's 60 for or no, yeah, 60 for one, which is okay. Zero heads, it's 10 for one, and one head, it's 20 for or 30 for one. So we're hitting like mediocre damage output consistently, but obviously nothing super special. We all have this Kecleon. This Kecleon is insane. Its ability, hidden expertise. If any damage is done to this Pokemon by attacks, which is the only way that happens, then flip a coin. If heads prevent that damage, that's absurd. Well, I said that's the only way that happens. That's the way it happens in regular Pokemon TCG. For example, Pokemon TCG Pocket remove damage counters being placed. Anyways, so this is insane. Like half the time you just don't take damage, and this is on a basic. We've seen this on evolutions, and they're like annoying. But the attack's bad on this. It's 30 snipe for for 2 colorless, and also says don't apply weakness and resistance for bench Pokemon on this colorless Kecleon. But this attack is obviously bad, especially for a double turbo. It's completely terrible. It's just doing 10 snipe for 2 colorless for like 2 whatever energies. It's kind of usable, but obviously pretty weak. It's like a stall control card, which is like a coin flip wall, which is kind of annoying. This card definitely seems annoying, and that's just it. Like it's just annoying, but it's a card you could play as a starting wall and could have some minor value. Then we have Bouffalant. Bouffalant, obviously, we got the big Bouffalant, or the not that big Bouffalant, but the one from Stellar Crown, which says if you have another Bouffalant in play, your colorless Pokemon takes 60 less. That's really huge, specifically for basic colorless Pokemon take 60 less, which is huge for basic for Bouffalants. And you have this attack here, which says for the waiting coins, 2 colorless, you do 40 during your opponent's next turn. If this Pokemon is damaged by an attack, even if it's knocked out, put 6 damage cards on the attacking Pokemon. This is not that bad if you are sometimes surviving attacks, which you might be doing with the other Bouffalant. You have 130 HP, go up to 180 with a Breathe Charm, then you go up to essentially equivalent to 240 with the other Bouffalant. If you're surviving attacks, then you're getting really good value out of this, and you can be a solid Pokemon with a Waiting Horns and Head Smash doing 150 for 4, discarding 2. Obviously not particularly good, but if you're surviving hits, it could be interesting. Probably not good enough, but a Waiting Horns is definitely a unique attack, or it's not that unique, but unique within the context of it could actually see play with the other Bouffant, and it's an interesting combo potential. We also have Heliolisk, which can search for a bunch of energy or do this generic attack. Nothing particularly special here. But we have a Rangu. This is really interesting. They're kind of weird. Until the end of your next turn, the defending Pokemon's weakness becomes 1 colorless, or becomes colorless. Apply weaknesses 2 times. I don't know if this overrules their current weakness. I don't really know too much about weakness changing. It's something that doesn't really matter. It will matter in the future with Lily's Clefairy EX, I think, but anyways, this is kind of interesting. Of course, colorless weakness isn't really a thing. It's not permanent, but it's an interesting card and could have some value here. Then we have, I think we talked about Tandemaus. We talked about Trapos. We did not talk about Mystery Set, which is an interesting item here. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and we put them back in any order, or shuffle those cards and put them on the bottom of your deck. There are a few cards in the game that care about the top card of your deck. There's Matang, though Matang probably is not doing this is not doing anything for Matang because it looks the top 4 and just doesn't care the order. But this is pretty interesting when considered to be played with something like maybe the what's it called? You have the Slowking. It's kind of interesting there that you're only seeing 3 cards. So if you're Slowking, you're looking for a specific Pokemon. The likelihood that you hit it off of Mystery Set is quite low. You could play a few, and it's obviously just there to kind of smooth things over when you don't have exactly what you're looking for. But Mystery Set's interesting. It has some unique combos, I guess, but they're nothing super spectacular. You can also choose to put cards at the bottom of your deck. You can do some weird shenanigans with bottom card stuff. I think you can't really do them just yet, but at some point, the bottom cards of your deck might be an important thing to know. There is Dusk Ball, I believe, is the item that's like Great Ball, but from the bottom. But those are also cards you're putting all 3 on the bottom, and I don't know. It's kind of interesting, and you don't control the bottom order either. I don't know if there's quite value in this card yet, but it feels like Pokemon's slowly itching towards some interesting bottom card of the deck mechanics as well, which might be interesting or might be weird, like with the Looker block deck. But anyways, then we have the last card, which is so exciting. I should not have saved this card to last. It's but Berry what? No, but that's definitely Berry Berry. Okay, well, that's a lovely name there. And when the Pokemon this card is attached to is damaged by an attack from your opponent's metal Pokemon, it takes 60 less damage from attacks, then you discard this card. That is not very good, right? The other one, Colbur, which we've seen already, Colbur Berry says you take less from Darkness, and that's arguably the best type. The best type would probably be Dragon to stop right now. But when looking at the Dragon Pokemon, specifically Raging Bolt Ogerpon or Raging Bolt EX is just like knocking you out no matter what. But the other ones aren't. So there could be value in a Dragon one. There could be value in a Darkness one. Charizard DX is good. Then Roaring Moon and Roaring Moon EX are both also good as well. And there's value specifically against the single price of Roaring Moon. Colbur Berry could have good value, and Charizard DX as well. But is it good enough? Probably not. Certainly the Berry is not good enough. But anyways, there are some really cool cards, especially that Durant. Can't wait to do Durant, Area Zero Underdepths. What was it? Lunatone, Solrock. Merriam combos. I don't know. That seems kind of funny, but I hope you enjoyed the video. Consider liking, subscribing, hitting the bell, all that good stuff. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video. And I'm really excited for these cards as well. In case you can't tell, I'm very excited. But I hope you enjoyed.